The movie begins with a plane named Vista Pacific that is about to take off for Japan. Passengers start boarding, and among them is a man who places a mysterious box under his seat. A flight attendant is then seen talking with the pilot. Both of them are excited to spend 3 days together in Tokyo. However, the pilot, named Pete, already has a wife and child. Laura, the flight attendant, is actually his mistress. Among the passengers is a man named Brad, who is seated next to a woman named Pia. They are a married couple going through a divorce. Another couple, Liz and Rick, are newlyweds heading to Japan for their honeymoon. Next to Liz sits a woman named Jacinta, who has a rocker look. Liz, clearly not a fan of Jacinta, tells her to move to an empty seat in the back. But Jacinta insists on staying where she is. Laura, doing her job as a flight attendant, tells the man with the mysterious box to place it in the overhead compartment. He carefully moves the box and stores it above his seat, handling it with extreme caution. Soon after, the plane takes off. Liz, in high spirits, shows her wedding photos with Rick to a nearby passenger. However, her non-stop talking makes the other passenger visibly uncomfortable. While Laura and another flight attendant, Susie, prepare meals, Susie mentions that she knows about Laura's affair with Pete. Susie tells her that Pete will never leave his wife for her. The flight goes smoothly until the plane suddenly hits strong turbulence. Everyone panics and fastens their seatbelts, except for Jacinta, who seems to enjoy the thrill. Fortunately, the turbulence doesn't last long, and the plane stabilizes. Not long after that, the man with the mysterious box starts having trouble breathing. Laura notices and rushes to check on him, calling Susie for help. Laura makes an announcement, asking if there's a doctor on board as someone has fallen ill. The man's condition worsens. He begins coughing up blood. Rick steps in to help, followed by Brad, who turns out to be a paramedic. The man becomes increasingly distressed, yelling that he doesn't want to die on the plane.
I don't want to die on a plane.
Brad tries to calm him down, assuring him he'll be okay. But soon the man starts convulsing and loses consciousness. Brad and the others carry him to the back of the plane and do everything they can to save him. Sadly, the man doesn't make it. Laura and Susie report to the cockpit that a passenger has died. The pilot decides they will continue flying to Tokyo, as a medical team is already standing by at the airport to handle the body. Laura then asks the first-class passengers to move to the economy section so they can place the deceased man's body in a first-class seat. The first-class passengers, including Brad and Pia, agree to relocate. They still have 6 more hours before reaching Tokyo. Jacinta, curious about the body being moved, watches the process with great interest and tells Liz. Liz, on the other hand, looks terrified. Unlike Liz, Jacinta stays calm, saying that death is just a natural part of life. While the body is being moved, a man named Jake keeps staring at the dead man's wristwatch. Eventually, the body is secured in a first-class seat. Meanwhile, a woman named Raquel pulls out a pregnancy test and heads straight to the restroom to find out if she's pregnant. As Laura checks around the seats, she finds something unusual in the dead man's seat. When she picks it up, she's shocked. It's one of his teeth, likely dislodged during the seizure. Elsewhere, Brad is about to take a drink when he notices that his fingernails are turning blue, and his water bottle suddenly deflates on its own. Sensing that something is wrong, Laura quickly instructs all passengers to fasten their seatbelts. She's right. Moments later, the plane hits severe turbulence and goes into a steep dive. The aircraft rapidly loses altitude. As it levels off, Violent shaking occurs, and the cabin pressure drops, making it hard to breathe. Oxygen masks drop automatically, and everyone puts them on immediately. Meanwhile, Raquel, still in the restroom, tries to get out but passes out due to the lack of air. Brad notices a woman and child who look weak and haven't managed to put on their masks. He quickly helps them. Then he sees Pia. She's unconscious and out of oxygen. As he tries to help her, Brad starts to feel dizzy. He spots an emergency oxygen tank and grabs it. He places it on Pia, and thankfully, she regains consciousness. They take turns using the oxygen tank. Soon after, cabin pressure stabilizes, and the passengers begin to calm down. Laura finds Raquel unconscious in the restroom and rushes to help her. Fortunately, Raquel survives. Brad finally realizes why his fingers look pale. They're actually lacking oxygen. Pia, sitting next to him, keeps glancing at the little girl in front of them. Ever since she was young, Pia has always wanted to have children. Unfortunately, she and Brad have never been blessed with one, which has strained their relationship and led them to decide on a divorce. Meanwhile, Jake appears to be heading somewhere. As Liz is about to shut down her laptop, she sees the reflection of the dead man on her screen. She's startled and visibly frightened. It turns out Jake is heading toward the first-class section, where the deceased man's body was placed. He walks slowly and carefully approaches the body. Jake's real intention is to steal the man's wristwatch. After taking it, instead of leaving, he starts recording himself next to the corpse. He doesn't realize that the dead man's head slightly turns toward him. When Jake pulls back the cloth covering the man's face, he's horrified by what he sees. Elsewhere, Brad is watching a movie when suddenly the dead man's face flashes on the screen. Laura also seems to notice something outside the window, the flashing lights of a jet flying beside them. The sight confuses her. Susie then realizes that one of the passengers hasn't been in his seat. It's Jake. Raquel, who sits next to Jake, tells Laura that he went upstairs to where the body was placed. Laura and Susie agree to go check on him. Strangely, when they get there, Jake is nowhere to be found, and even more bizarre, the body is missing too. Laura reports to the pilot that the corpse has vanished. She also asks Captain Pete if he saw another jet flying past, but Pete says he didn't see anything. Raquel is seen checking her pregnancy test again in the restroom. Suddenly, thick smoke starts pouring out from underneath, frightening her. Even more shocking, two hands reach up from below and grab her legs. Meanwhile, Brad, Liz, and Pia are talking about the missing passenger and the missing corpse. Brad then reveals that he saw something strange while watching a movie. He saw the dead man's face, just like what Liz saw on her laptop screen. They finally decide to find out who the man really is. They believe he may be the reason behind all the strange things happening on the plane. So, they try to go through his belongings to uncover the truth. At that moment, Jacinta notices what they're trying to do. In the crew room, Pete meets with Laura. There, Laura tells him that she knows for sure he will never leave his wife, especially since they have a child together. Laura then decides to end her relationship with Pete. Elsewhere, Brad and the others manage to identify the man who died. His name turns out to be Lance Morrill, and he's from California. They also find bizarre items, like hair stored in small bottles. Jacinta suddenly shows up carrying Lance's box. Laura and Susie also learn the man's identity, Lance. They decide to go down to the cargo hold to check his luggage. Brad manages to open Lance's box and finds a creepy-looking doll inside. Meanwhile, Laura searches for Lance's suitcase below. She's startled by a dog and accidentally falls. That's when she discovers Lance's suitcase. As she opens it, a man's hand suddenly appears from inside, just like what Raquel experienced in the restroom. Susie follows Laura to the cargo hold after noticing she hasn't returned. Just like before, another man's hand appears, scaring Susie and causing her to run in panic, straight up to the first-class cabin. Brad and the others follow after hearing her scream. Suddenly, a mysterious hand grabs Susie and pulls her into the luggage compartment. The plane suddenly hits turbulence again, and everyone rushes downstairs, except for Jacinta. Liz and the others go to the cockpit and find the pilot and co-pilot unconscious. With oxygen masks still on their faces, Jacinta, still in the upper cabin, sees a figure that looks exactly like herself. But instead of running away, she embraces the figure. Brad trips over Raquel, who is unconscious in the restroom. He's then shocked to see himself and Pia, both dead, sitting in their seats. It's not just them. Brad also sees that everyone on the plane looks extremely pale. None of them understand what's really happening. On the cabin TV screen, they watch a news report covering a press conference. It announces that the plane they are on, Vista Pacific, sent a distress signal after experiencing severe turbulence that caused a structural breach. At that moment, they witness a flashback to the earlier turbulence. In that memory, Brad tries to save Pia, but fails. It's revealed that no one survives the incident. As for the jet Laura saw earlier, it turns out to be the aircraft sent to inspect the Vista Pacific flight, which is now found to have no signs of life on board. The plane continues flying on autopilot until it runs out of fuel and crashes into the Pacific Ocean. That's when they finally realize that they all died during the earlier turbulence. In their minds, they believe they survived and have been trapped in a subconscious state, when in fact, they are already dead. They can only let go because they don't know what else to do.